Hello, everyone. Welcome to Behind the Baton at the Eastern Music Festival. I'm Gerard Schwarz, the music director, speaking to you. I'm actually speaking to you from Miami, and I'm going to talk to Jenny Grégoire, one of our remarkable violinists. Sits in the first stand of the seconds, but she could be the concertmaster or sit anywhere else. She is just one of the most wonderful musicians that I've had the joy to work with. She's associate professor of violin and Alabama and the string area coordinator. She's Canadian. She's from Quebec, so she's a French Canadian, like my daughter-in-law now. You and
That's right.
you and Marika are the two French Canadians. She has a tremendous educational background and plays concertmaster with many orchestras, in particular the Mobile Symphony. And she's just a delight for me to work with. So Jenny, thank you so much. Can we begin by you giving me a little history of your involvement at EMF?
Well, started working at EMF in 2004, and that year, many people applied for the openings in violin, and I remember preparing a CD and sending it in, and then I was selected as a new faculty, and I've been to EMF every summer since, even when my children were infants. And you may remember me coming in to meetings, having my son and my little carry-on for babies and such. So anyway, EMF has been a big part of my musical life, and that's where also I've met wonderful colleagues. And of course, getting to work with you has been one of the highlights, and that's brought me back to EMF every summer, looking forward to the wonderful concerts that you've put together, and just for me to get to learn and from you and from my colleagues and get to play inspiring concerts.
Thank you so much. It's just a joy for me. And of course, for those who probably remember, Jenny's appeared as solos with us. She appears on many chamber music concerts, and she's one of our most outstanding chamber music players. But so you wear lots of hats. The one hat is that being a concertmaster of the area orchestras down in Alabama, as well as in the symphony, and a lot of chamber music. Played a lot of concertos. You're very active. And what is it like wearing the different hats for you, whether you be the concertmaster or in the case of EMF, you sit next to Randy Weiss, so you're the associate principal second. As you know, my feeling about the violins is that we have two concertmasters, one on either side, and you have to really have incredibly strong, wonderful musicians on the first stand on either side. And so you know how much I rely on you. But give me an idea, what's it like being concertmaster, being associate principal, being chamber music player, being a teacher? I mean, there's so much variety in your life.
Well, I feel that being assistant principal, I get to use a lot of my chamber music skills, and also I really understand the role of the principal, and what is my job is to be supportive, and also make sure that all the communications coming from the first violins come to our side. And then I feel when I'm playing in the second violin sections is I can listen to the music in such a different perspective. Like, I love having the violas next to me, and I can hear the brass much better, or it's just more clear how my line intertwined with the violas and the brass. I also appreciate the music more, because I feel when I'm playing concertmaster and I'm first violin, I'm on the edge of the stage, and I feel all I hear is violins and the cellos across from me, if I'm depending on the setup of the orchestra. And I feel the weight of the orchestra while leading my section, but also trying to, I think, yeah, it's just a very different role. And I love being assistant principal at EMF because it allows me to appreciate the music in a different way. And when I go back to being concertmaster in the fall, I feel like I can communicate with my colleagues better as well, because I understand, I can tell them, I said, you know, I sit in very different places. I do know what it is to play second violin, and I feel I get a respect from my colleagues and my orchestras back home, because they know that I'm fine playing anywhere. And then in chamber music, I get to play first violin, I get to play second violin, and really, chamber music is about communication and getting the best musical product for our audience, and having the opportunity to play different roles also allows me as a teacher to explain that to my students, because as a violinist growing up, there's always this, I don't know how to describe it, but like first violin is so much better than second violin.
Right. I mean, there's this thing that everybody wants to be the first violin, but in fact, I agree with you. You know, the inner voices, the violas and the second violins are the ones that give, you know, the heart and soul of an orchestra. And those voices mean everything. The tunes will always be obvious, the bass line's always obvious, but if you get those inner voices having vibrance and musicianship and expressivity, it just changes everything. And I can see how you being a concert master, you're just, you know, you're in charge. You're working with the conductor, you're working this, and you have to take over. When you're in the seconds, then all of a sudden you can be, you in a sense can be more part of the whole rather than being only leading, because you have to, what is the conductor saying? You know, am I communicating to my section what the conductor's saying? And then of course, musically, to hear those inner voices, I mean, for me, some of the most poignant moments in Mozart is in the viola parts. You know, so sometimes I would look at a whole symphony and just, not some, all the time, and just look at the viola part. So, wow, what incredible music the violas have. And it's the same with the seconds. And I know you have that passion and joy of playing music, whether you're leading a string quartet or quintet, or whether you're concert master or you're the assistant principal in the seconds. What about teaching? Now, I know you've just been promoted in Alabama to be an associate professor, and congratulations.
Thank you.
I read some of the comments from your students, which are just incredible, how lucky they are to have you. So do you have any philosophy of, let's say, you're teaching a student at the university and, you know, you're giving them 30 lessons or whatever the number is, or when you're at EMF where you're giving them 5 lessons, you can't, I mean, how different is that?
Well, when I'm teaching the students at the university, let's say I'm getting a class of freshmen, I have to, depending on their goals with the degree and also what they want to be, and also what I feel they should be, the level or the knowledge they should acquire, I have to plan, I plan like 2 years, 3 years, or 4 years. And some things, we establish short-term goals and long-term goals, depending on what they need when they come in. So I feel with my university students, I can think on the longer term, I can have different levels of goals. But when I'm at EMF, so we get 5 lessons, and I always make sure that to ask the students, what would you like to get from EMF this summer, and what can you get from me? So some of them come in and they have a specific goals, like they want to learn a Bach sonata, or they want to work on double stops or shifting. So we start with that, and then some of them, they're just so eager and so open that I just anything. So I try to assess their strengths and things that they may need just to improve, and then I choose my battles, because in the sense that you can't fix everything, and sometimes something may be different technically, but if it's working, there's no reason to change it. If it's not, it's going to impair the student. So if they are really new at playing orchestra music, I feel that will be what I need to work on with them, because I could not imagine being 15-year-old and tackling a Mahler symphony, for example. And what I do is try to explain to them, how do you tackle a violin part that is 35 or 40 pages? And how do you organize your practice? And that's also something that I talk about in sectionals. So I try, since I've worked with all the violinists throughout the summer, I try to, and the ones that are my private students, I try to connect what I'm talking about in sectionals into the private lessons. And then from week to week, we also sometimes reevaluate what we should work on. And then for some of them, they prepare auditions for the fall for their home orchestras or for college. And then I give them some advice on how to prepare for those. And we will look at repertoire. And I must say, a lot of my Eastern Music Festival students, they keep in touch with me afterwards. And they will, from time to time send me messages, which is so great. And I feel that's a connection. Like I tell the students, the people you work with when you're in school or at music camps, you will cross their path again, because music is a small world. And I think that's a great world that you can crisscross and get to work with people at different times in your life. So it's always great. Like there's a young man from last summer who sent me a message not too long ago saying he heard the recording that I did, and he's like, oh, I enjoyed this so much. And then I said, oh, how are you doing? Where are you going to school? Then we talked about this, and then he talked about coming back to EMF in the future summer after he starts college. So, and I just love hearing from them. I have former students who've moved on to other different careers, or even are professional musicians, and then once in a while I get the message, and I think that's great that they still want to share that with me. And I feel having had that initial contact at EMF allowed that. So,
it's really interesting to hear the different concepts of, are you going to be teaching them for 3-4 years, teaching them for 1 year, or teaching them 5 lessons, and having the different idea of what you want to accomplish, what your goals are. It's brilliant of you to think that way. Now, you referred to sectionals. I assume that a lot of our audience really doesn't even know what sectionals are. Why don't you tell us what sectionals are?
Okay, so for the sectionals, we get to, each instrument works on the repertoire for the week or the first 2 weeks, for example. And then what we have to do is isolate the sections that are challenging as a whole. It can be rhythmically, it can be for intonation. And this allows the orchestra rehearsals to go much more smoothly, because having, a lot of repertoire to cover in a short amount of time, the sectionals we can help the students have a better sense of what is very important, or how to execute some technique that they may not have seen before. And I think also we worked on getting a section sound, because that's a challenge, is to come in from many different places in the country or other countries, and then you have to blend together and create a sense of unity. And that's something I talk about a lot, is starting together or ending together. That sounds so basic, but with the bow, we can grab the string and then be just a split second before someone else, and then it doesn't sound together. So we talk about this, and then I also try to empower them with the repertoire, because some of them, some students can play all the notes, and some of them can't play all the notes. And I tell them, I could not have played what you're playing right now when I was 15 or 16 or 17. So I try to tell them how great they are doing, and I say, it's okay if you don't play all the notes. That's why we're huge sections in violin. Someone in the section is going to get the note.
Don't tell anybody you said that.
Well, I think they need to know that they're not failing if they're not able to play the notes. And I tell them every time they will play the piece, they will get better at it. And I'm saying, no, this is not an excuse that you stop practicing and don't try to get better at your part. But I said ensemble and matching bow strokes. So basically using the same amount of bow, being in the same part of the bow. Visually, it's important, but it's not just about visual, it's about matching. And if somebody is at the frog versus at the tip of the bow, it's not going to sound the same. So I want them to get a sense of looking around themselves and looking at the front. And then I tell them it's okay to miss a note, but you don't want to play all the right notes at the wrong time. I say, so try to have them focus on what's important for the time they have to learn the piece. And I find that from sectional to sectional, or from week to week, even though the repertoire changes, those skills carry over and get better. So I'm hoping those things they can take home, and when they go back to the school orchestra, youth orchestra, college orchestra, they can take this in and be better orchestra musicians, but also better colleagues and enjoy it more.
Well, I think that's one of the reasons why everybody loves you, all your students love you so much, is because you try to give them something positive to take away, not just saying, oh, you didn't do this right, you're terrible. You never, that's not your way. It's very uplifting from what everyone has said. Now, I see this beautiful string quartet behind you. What is that on your wall?
Well, it's a famous drawing of a string quartet, and if you may remember who they are, I don't know if you can see.
Yeah, we can see it.
Yes, and I have actually a copy of this at my school, at university office, and I don't want to embarrass myself by saying that it's the wrong quartet, but I feel like it's the Albaberg Quartet.
Quartet, yeah, they're celebrating their, 50th anniversary or something, yeah.
It's a famous quartet, but I will do my homework and check on it, because I know the orchestra conductor that I work with in Mobile, the violist that is in that drawing, was his professor.
Wow,
and
that's something.
Yes, so
really beautiful.
I will do my homework and get back to you, Jerry, and tell you which quartet it is.
But don't ask me about my walls, please. Now, what a lot of people may not know is that you are also from a distinguished musical family at present. Jenny's husband, Demondre Thurman, is one of the great brass players in the world, one of the great teachers, first-class conductor. He's a professor at Indiana University in Bloomington on euphonium. So what is it like having a euphonium and a violin? Let's not even get into the children yet, because Demondre is a great artist and he's a great musician. So that part's easy. But, are there instruments that are more different? I guess maybe the tuba could be a little more different than the euphonium.
Right.
But what is it like for him to be married to a violinist? I know he loves you and you're playing it, but you to be married to your phone. Is there something that we can learn from this relationship?
Well, being married to such a wonderful musician, but also a conductor, is intimidating at times, but also very inspiring, and we learn from each other. But one thing about being married to a conductor is I will be practicing my orchestra music, preparing for a concert, especially during the year. The morning will knock on my door and say, "Hey, Jenny, I think you're something here with the rhythm. You're."
That's great.
Yes, but sometimes he will play tricks on me. Like I will be practicing with metronome and really trying to get a passage ready, just so, and then I will, step out to get a glass of water and say, "Yeah, I heard you play something," and then he will cast a doubt on how I was doing it. I say, was I rushing really? He say, oh no, I'm just messing with you. So,
now, what about your children? Are they musical as well?
yes. So I think because they've been hearing music since they were little, it's been great to notice how many pieces they know without really having sat down and learned about them. My daughter started doing violin with me when she was little, but I don't think it was working so well. I don't think the instrument was, I don't think she felt so comfortable with the violin. And I think the other challenge is to be a parent teaching their child. Now, I think there's, famous musicians that had a parent teaching the same instrument. But I think also sometimes you have the dynamic. My apologies. There's the dynamic of having the parental authority and the teacher's authority. So anyway, we together decided that piano would be better. And I think she's been enjoying that. She's more of a visual artist. She's always drawing and painting. And I think that's an artistic strength. But piano has been great because it gives her a different perspective and also helps with discipline. So our son also plays piano. But what I think he really loves is playing in band. And I must tell you, we were thinking he would pick trombone. And Demondre, being a euphonium player, thought that playing trombone would be great since he could play in much repertoire if he really enjoyed it. And so he was not even telling him that euphonium was an option. So Demondre goes abroad for a concert. This is the first day of classes. Stefan goes to school for band, and he comes home and tells me, Mom, did you know I could learn the euphonium at school? And he would be embarrassed for me to tell you this story, but I think he will appreciate it. So there was a form he had to fill out and pick 2 instruments. So he circled trombone and he circled euphonium and put like 10 arrows around the word euphonium. And he wrote at the back of the form, my dad is a famous euphonium player. So, and obviously his teacher let him pick the euphonium, and he's really enjoyed it. But it was just so amazing to see how excited he was to get to play that instrument. And Demondre got home from his trip, and I said, Stefan, I speak the euphonium, right? He said, really? I said, yes. I think Demondre was making sure it came from him, not that he needed to copy what his dad does. So, and I've heard them play together, and Stefan does very well listening to Demondre's instructions. And I've actually been asking, how can I learn from a brass player? Listening to Demondre teach Stefan when Demondre is traveling for work, I can remind Stefan of certain things he needs to think about when he's playing. So that's been great. And Demondre and I also have been talking about the difference of how we approach orchestral music coming from a string player versus a brass player. So it's been great to
You are a great family, and Demondre, as everybody knows, is also part of our euphonium and tuba intensive that we do every summer. He
yes.
is a dear friend, a joy. I used to look at some of his videos when he was conducting in Alabama and was absolutely knocked out with what a great conductor he is as well. And so what a family and wonderful. And I remember when you were pregnant with your children. So I feel like we've all grown up together. And thank you so much, Jenny. You're such a delight, such a great artist, such a great person, such a great mother and wife, and you're just very, very special. Now, I didn't ask you, where are you talking to me from?
I'm talking from my home in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. So it's been kind of very different to spend so much time at home, but I must say it's been great to be with Demondre and our children, and to get to spend time as a family, even though we're in the middle of a pandemic. So
I think that's true for so many of us, spending time with our families that we normally wouldn't be able to do during a tragic time. But on this, there are always positive things that happen, even during something like a pandemic. Jenny, thank you so much. I'm going to miss you so much over these next few months, but I can't wait to work together again in 2021 to hear your gorgeous sound and artistry. Thank you so much for spending the time.
Well, thank you, Jerry. This was a pleasure to speak with you today. So it makes me miss EMF just a little less. So
thank you. Much love to you. Bye-bye.